when there's an incident in the black community. The high crime rate there permeates. Also, most Americans understand that police work is difficult. Right now, there are about 670,000 law enforcement agents in America. According to the FBI in 2013, last stats available, almost 50,000 police officers were assaulted. 76 cops died on the job. So there's no question that police work is intense, especially in poor neighborhoods. Now, we're all human beings, and we all form general impressions about life. Sad to say, the overt impression formed about young black males who act and speak in a certain way is negative. May not be fair, but it's reality. Faced with that, some police officers unfairly target young black males, and those officers must be stopped.
Now, the purpose of the authentic cop is to protect and serve and to cut down on crime and this and that. So on one end, it's unfair to target the young black teenagers in those neighborhoods. But then on the other end, there is a justified profiling of young black teenagers in those environments because those environments are infested with crime. And a lot of the young black males are committing the crime. So if you have a cop that stops two 17-year-olds who have their pants bagging, sagging, and they're walking and they may look like criminals, they may look like gang members, it's justified to the cop stopping and checking in on them because let's say if he didn't, in the theory that, well, it's wrong to profile them. If he didn't stop them based on the profile of how a criminal would look, I want you to keep that in mind, they may go out and commit a crime and get away with it. Now, I'm not saying that they're automatically criminals, but if you have an individual with saggy pants and perhaps wearing infamous gang colors, red or blue, the cop in that environment has to make a decision on whether to investigate them for being potential gang members. That was another thing that used to happen to a lot of teenagers in those environments, is they would stop you to see if you were a gang member because you had on those particular colors. So it's the same with the gang member issue of dealing with young black teenagers in these environments, because you have to make sure as a cop to protect the environments and to try to stop the crime that would potentially happen from those individuals. It's a 50-50, and this is how we have to look at it.
But most cops try to be fair. I really believe that. Many politicians are too cowardly to tell you what talking points is just stated. They all know the truth. They all know the stats. But they refuse to discuss the core problems: poor education, poor family structure, and an attitude of defiance toward law enforcement.
Now, the main thing is exactly what Bill O'Reilly says. I mean, I took the position of saying basically, how in the world is Bill O'Reilly going to tell black people about their problems? But, it's not about the color of the person telling you. Martin Luther King told you that. It's not about him being a white person telling black people about themselves. He's telling the truth. The reason black people have the problems they have is because of those issues. Poor education rates. A lot of black teenagers drop out of school due to drugs, sex, violence, peer pressure, into all of those also, peer pressure also. The culture, the rap culture, this get rich or die trying type of mentality that young people have taken upon themselves to have. That's another reason why they drop out of school. The poor family structure, only having one parent. Usually it's the mother, the single mother, because the father is usually dead or he's in prison or he's in and out of prison, right? And that creates the defiance to authority because they don't have the discipline in their life to respect an authoritative figure. If the father was in their life, they would respect authority in general. Of course, you have to have common sense and have self-respect to say, well, I don't appreciate how this cop is, and that's a crooked cop, and this and that. Yes. But and it's actually the poor family structure that creates all of those other problems. The poor family structure creates the poor education, which creates the defiance of authority. That's the honest truth.
Top story tonight, reaction. With us, Kevin Powell, co-founder of the activist group BK Nation, and the Reverend Jacques DeGraff, a Fox News analyst. Where am I going wrong, Reverend, very specifically?
Your entire premise is false. The notion that this is a crime problem funded by or fueled by weak families is totally inaccurate. Racism is alive in America, and a lot of people don't want to talk about racism, and you're making this a law enforcement problem.
Well, that's what it is.
It's not a law enforcement problem. It's an allocation of resources problem. It's a justice problem.
Okay. Well, law enforcement and justice, I hate to inform you, Reverend, are tied in together. Now, do you believe...
Not in our community.
Do you believe...
That's the whole point.
Do you believe that most police officers in America don't like you because of the color of your skin?
That's irrelevant.
No, it's not. That's the key question.
I'm concerned when I'm in the presence of most police officers in America. When a police officer walks to me, I don't see a friend walking towards me.
Uh-huh. Do you know that 99.9% of all police interactions with American citizens result in no violence? Do you know that?
Of course I know that.
Okay,
I
so
also
then
know
why would a rational person like you be afraid then?
because if a policeman could shoot a 12-year-old because he couldn't distinguish between whether he was a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old on 2 seconds notice.
Mistakes are going to be made.
No, the mistakes. See, there are white people who live in public housing who've never been shot accidentally by a policeman.
So you do believe that police come in and target black people? You
I didn't
believe
say
that?
that.
No, that's what you're saying to me.
I believe no. I
That's
believe
what I'm taking away from you.
Well, I believe, and others in our community believe, that we're at risk in a way that other Americans are.
Because cops target blacks. Do you believe that most cops get up?
Have a different value than the system has a different value toward black life, which is why Black Lives Matter.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Mr. Powell.
This is astonishing. First you say racism exists in America and people don't want to talk about racism. Then you say a 12-year-old was shot by a cop and you're hinting at racism. Then you say comparing there are white people in housing environments, housing projects and this and that are not getting shot by cops. Then Bill O'Reilly asks you, so you do believe that cops are targeting young black people. Then he says, I didn't say that. Then he says it's irrelevant. What the hell are you saying? I don't even understand what you're saying. You're trying to double talk? You're not even double talking right. Because with racism, you can't double talk like that. Either you believe racism exists, whichever magnitude you believe it exists, either on a major scale, intermediate scale, or a minor scale. But you can't believe it exists and then don't believe it exists at the same time. That's basically what he's saying. Racism exists and it don't exist at the same time. And you scratching your head saying, what the fuck? And that's exactly what I'm saying. What the fuck are you saying? You're sounding stupid.
Top story tonight reaction. With us, Kevin Powell, co-founder of the activist group BK Nation, and the Reverend Jacques DeGraff, a Fox News analyst. Where am I going wrong, Reverend, very specifically?
Your entire premise is false. The notion that this is a crime problem funded by or fueled by weak families is totally inaccurate. Racism is alive in America, and a lot of people don't want to talk about racism, and you're making this a law enforcement problem.
Well, that's what it is.
It's not a law enforcement problem. It's an allocation of resources problem. It's a justice problem.
Okay. Well, law enforcement and justice, I hate to inform you, Reverend, are tied in together. Now, do you believe...
Not in our community.
Do you believe...
That's the whole point.
Do you believe that most police officers in America don't like you because of the color of your skin?
That's irrelevant.
No, it's not. That's the key question.
I'm concerned when I'm in the presence of most police officers in America. When a police officer walks to me, I don't see a friend walking towards me.
Do you know that 99.9% of all police interactions with American citizens result in no violence? Do you know that?
Of course I know that.
Okay, so why would a rational person like you be afraid then?
Because if a policeman could shoot a 12-year-old because he couldn't distinguish between whether he was a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old on 2 seconds notice.
Mistakes are going to be made.
No, the mistakes... See, there are white people who live in public housing who've never been shot accidentally by a policeman.
So you do believe that police come in and target black people?
I didn't say that.
That's what you're saying to me.
I believe, no.
That's what I'm taking away from you.
Well, I believe, and others in our community believe, that we're at risk in a way that other Americans are.
Because cops target blacks. Do you believe that most cops get up?
Have a different value than the system has a different value toward black life, which is why Black Lives Matter.
I couldn't disagree with you more. Mr. Powell, do you believe that most American police agents, 670,000 of them, don't like you because of the color of your skin?
I believe that we live in a country that is so rooted in racism, it permeates every aspect of the society.
And how does that define itself? I mean, am I a racist? Do I come across as somebody who doesn't like black people?
Since you asked the question,
yeah.
Even your opening memo, the way you presented all that stuff about black people, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you know what? I could say the same thing about young white males who have committed the majority of white mass shootings in this country, but I wouldn't say that because I'm not going to perpetuate the mythology that all white men are dangerous.
I asked the next gentleman, do you think cops target black people, young black people? And I don't know what this is with these black people that go on these shows, particularly Fox News, where they dance around the question. He asked a simple question. The guy that previously asked the question to, he kept asking the same question over and over because he's trying to get a foundation of what you believe as far as this topic, this issue in the country. Do you believe that cops target young black people or black people in general? This guy says, I believe that racism is embedded in this country. So you believe it. So why don't you just say it? It seems like they're trying to sound philosophical and all intelligent as opposed to just answering the simple question. Maybe because if you give a yes or no answer, Bill O'Reilly then can determine how the debate goes from that point on, and you have the agenda to try to make him look racist. So if you say, yes, I believe black people are targeted, then what he's going to do is present information to show, well, that's not true, because look, young black teenagers are not the only ones that are being shot by cops. I'm giving you other evidence. If you say, no, I don't believe that young black people are targeted by the cops, now you really have no basis of being there, because that's the whole purpose for you being there, to present a racial issue. So this whole sugarfooting, pussyfooting around the question is something that I've noticed, and this gets them in a lot of trouble, because when you don't answer the question, they just throw you off as just, oh well, just like with the previous guy, Reverend Jacques DeGraff, whatever. Bill O'Reilly asked him one more time, do you believe that black men are targeted, young black people are targeted by the cops? I didn't say that. Then he says, well, white people live in public housing environments, and then he says, they don't get shot by the cops, and then Bill O'Reilly says, because cops target No, I didn't say that. Then he goes on to the next guy. He says, okay, I got it. You're gonna dance around the question because you know if you answer it firmly on either end, that'll determine how you look on the show.
Any of the statistics that I put forth?
Actually, I do, because if you look at many of the crimes that are out there, from Wall Street crimes to certain drug arrests, a lot of these things are actually white people doing these things, not black folks.
So you believe that the police don't arrest
what
whites
I believe,
and they
what I believe
arrest
is that people sometimes conveniently manipulate statistics to prove their agenda.
Right.
And
These are FBI stats. I'm sorry. I mean,
well, sir, I also have folks who work for the FBI, and those are not the accurate stats.
Right. Did you know that black Americans commit 1,000 more murders a year than white Americans, even though blacks are 13% of the population and whites are 63%?
Sir, what I also know is that...
Am I racist for pointing that out?
Sir, what I also know that violence pervades every part of this society. Black communities, white communities,
It's a pretty big gap, though. I mean, 13
sir.
opposed to 63, and you got 1,000 more murders a year?
Here's what I would say to you, sir, with all due respect. My thing is, are we going to have a real issue about racism, not 150 years ago, but in 2014? You know, you asked the question, do people feel threatened if they encounter a police officer? Up until I was about 14, 15 years old, absolutely not. I didn't even think about it. I saw police officers as my friend because that's how I was socialized, how I was raised. But when I got beat up by a police officer when I was 15 years old, a white police officer in Jersey City where I was born, and I probably weighed about 90 pounds, and I was perceived to be a threat as some sort of big man. I was 5'2", maybe. That sent a message that somehow or another, as a young black male, or an older black male, hold on,
the atrocity that one police officer did with all of them.
Well, the problem is, sir, if this was happening to white males in this country, at the record is happening to Michael Brown, to Tamir Rice, to Kai Gurley, it would be an epidemic.
Michael Brown attacked that police officer.
What was
Let's get to the Reverend, and I'll give you both 30 seconds to sum up. Go ahead.
It is, in my judgment and the judgment of many in our community, this. They took John Gotti alive. They took Lee Harvey Oswald alive. So even our criminals are treated differently than white criminals. Boy, and there are white criminals.
It's pretty far out there, Reverend. All right. Last word, Mr.
It's not far out there. The reality is we have a serious issue around racism in this country. And if you look at the protests out there, it's not just black people. There are white people out there, Latino people out there, Asian people out there.
Because they understand who's leading those protests.
No, they understand that this is a problem that affects everyone in society. And the older generations, unfortunately, are holding on to racism. There are young people out there of all different backgrounds.
You guys are generalizing a lot of people.
In New York, they're shutting down Macy's, they're shutting down Toys R Us. And this conversation will change as you feel the economic and other effects, political and economic, of people in our community.
All right, gentlemen, we appreciate it.
Because if a policeman could shoot a 12-year-old because he couldn't distinguish between whether he was a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old on 2 seconds' notice.
Mistakes are going to be made.
But no, the mistakes. See, there are white people who live in public housing who've never been shot accidentally by a policeman.
So you do believe that police come in and target black people? You believe that? That's what you're saying to me.
I believe no. I believe.
I'm taking away from you.
Well, I believe, and others in our community believe, that we're at risk in a way that other Americans are.
Because cops target blacks. Do you believe that most cops get up?
Have a different value than the system has a different value toward black life, which is why black lives matter.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Mr.